Hi, and welcome to another presentation from your business tutor, learning your way, anytime, anywhere. If a business wants to have a successful product, it needs to know how best to support it. However, to do this effectively, it needs to know how the product is doing in the market, as this will influence how it helps it. This is why this presentation on the product lifecycle is so important, as it assists a business in identifying how a product is doing in a market and therefore how it should be supported. Okay, so what are we going to learn in this presentation? Well, first of all, we're going to find out what a product lifecycle is, and then we're going on to explore the different stages of the product lifecycle. Okay, let's get started by asking, what is a product lifecycle? In simple terms, a product lifecycle describes the stages a product goes through from its launch all the way through to its eventual removal from the market. In general, each stage is described in terms of what the product's sales would be at each point, and hence how successful the product is doing at that stage. For example, as can be seen, when a product is launched, sales steadily rise from zero, after which they then accelerate rapidly until a high point is reached, whereupon sales then level off before eventually beginning to fall until the product is finally removed from the market. However, before moving on, it is important to note that the diagram we've just looked at describes what is called a classic or standard product lifecycle, in so much that, in reality, actual products may have differently shaped life cycles. For example, some, as can be seen, launch and fail immediately, meaning their life cycle would have the shape shown. Whereas other products, as the diagram shows, launch and then maintain their high sales for a prolonged period of time. However, although it is important to appreciate this, it is also vital to realise that to better understand the different stages of a product lifecycle, that it is easier to focus on the classic shape. So let's do that now by first asking, what is the introduction stage of the product lifecycle? The introduction stage describes the time period over which a product is launched onto the market. As can be seen from the diagram, during this period the product experiences low sales which rise gradually over time. Sales are low at this point because when a product is first launched, customers may not be aware of it and it probably isn't being sold in many shops. However, to overcome these issues, a business usually spends heavily on advertising during this period, which, when added to the cost of developing the product in the first place, and it can be seen why at this point on the product life cycle, the business will be experiencing quite high losses. Okay, let's now move on to the second stage by asking, what is the growth stage of the product life cycle? During this stage, the product becomes increasingly well known, as the advertising used previously begins to have a positive effect and the product becomes available in more stores. As such, and as the diagram shows, during this time period, sales rise rapidly. Better yet, and even though the product is still being advertised at this point, because sales are rising so quickly, the business is now only making a small loss and in fact may start to make a profit near the end of the growth phase. As a consequence, it is usually during the growth stage that a business will break even. Okay, let's now move on to the third time period in the life cycle by asking, what is the maturity stage? This stage describes a period where a product is doing really well and is popular amongst customers. It is available in lots of shops and has built up a strong brand image, meaning, as the diagram shows, that sales have reached their highest point and have levelled off. As you might expect, during this period a large profit is made, as the revenue generated from sales is much higher than the cost of making the product, meaning all the money spent on developing it will now have been recouped. What this shows is that reaching the maturity stage and staying at this point for as long as possible is crucial if a business is to make high profits and be successful. In fact, this is why during this stage, a business will often continue to advertise so that customers carry on purchasing the product over those of competitors. Okay, so that leaves us with the final part of the product life cycle. So let's look at that now by asking, what is the decline stage? During this stage, the product becomes unpopular because it either goes out of fashion or better, more superior products replace it. As a consequence, and as the diagram shows, sales fall rapidly during this stage until the point is reached where the business decides to stop selling it. Usually this occurs when sales have fallen to a level where losses start to be made, meaning the business will remove the product from the market and cease production. However, in order that this situation may be delayed, a business will try to keep its costs as low as possible during this phase, meaning no money will be spent on advertising or promoting the product. Okay, so what did we learn during this presentation? Well, first of all, we found out what a product life cycle is, and then we went on to explore the different stages of the product life cycle. As we have seen, each stage in the product life cycle is completely different. Given this, it is crucial that a business knows exactly where its product is on its life cycle, so that effective measures can be put in place to support its future development.